Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. My name is Trainer Chip Ritchie, joined here as always by my friend and co-host Azul GG. What's going on, Azul? How you doing? You getting ready for Worlds, man?
Doing good. Yeah, getting ready for Worlds, getting that last minute preparation in, and then heading out tomorrow. Actually, Monday. So we're recording today on Sunday, heading out Monday. You guys listen to this, of course, on Tuesday. So yeah, and then yeah, I'm just excited to get going and get over to London. Um, I'm ready. I'm ready to ready for another Worlds. It's been a while.
It has been a while, and that's what's been so exciting these last few weeks leading up to it. I've really started to feel the FOMO big time this weekend, seeing all these people's posts of traveling to Worlds, getting on the airplane, getting their last things packed. It's like, man, I'm not gonna be there this time. And it feels really bad because now it means 2023, assuming Worlds happens then, hopefully it will. It should, but that'll be 4 years since I'd been to a World Championships, which is the fourth year, I guess, since I'd been. So it's pretty wild since 2019 was the last time. But looking forward to watching from home. Can't wait to see how things unfold, where the meta shapes up, and we'll talk about some of those things this week. If you missed last week's episode, that's kind of where we did our full meta breakdown. We talked about each of the decks, how we thought they may do, what our kind of opinions were on them in the current meta, all of the top decks. So if you want to see meta specific things, definitely make sure to listen to last week's episode. But this week we'll be talking about a few things here. We'll start things off by just going over the format and kind of the theming of Worlds in general, giving our opinions there on the theme, and then also talking about exactly how the schedule works, how things work going from day one to day two, what you need to accomplish in day one to make day two, and
Day
so
three,
on
dude.
and so forth. Yeah, and eventually potentially day three. And then we'll have guess the flavor text, of course, guess that flavor text. And we'll close things out with a Q&A where we've got a bunch of questions from our listeners from over on Twitter. We'll be talking about different questions that are just kind of more general about the world's environment, things to do, all that type of stuff. And then also meta specific questions, kind of like last second deck inclusions or where we think specific decks sit in the meta. But yeah, I'm excited for this coming weekend. The World Championships is going to be a lot of fun to watch, and I know Azul is definitely getting excited and ready to participate and to compete. So, Azul, you ready to hop into this?
Yeah, I'm ready to get going, Chip. Let's get right into it. I mean, I guess the first thing we talk about is the world's format, right? So they kind of gave us the full schedule release. We didn't talk about this last week at all. We maybe talked about it the week before a little bit. But they've kind of given us the whole rundown of what to expect, specifically for the Masters division. Juniors and seniors. I mean, everyone will have that, the day one play in. Some people kind of joke and call it the grinder. And especially it feels like that a little bit more this year because they did double the amount of day two invites. So we went from 16 to 32 in North America. And then in Europe, they went from 22 to 44,
Yep.
right? And specifically for Europe, that's a lot because it's the world is in Europe. So I think that's one of the reasons they maybe always had a higher amount of Europe. I mean, they have a lot of European countries, I guess. I don't quite know how their logic behind it, but Europe has more. They have less players than North America, but they have more day two invites, which
Yeah, I
is
think the
interesting.
countries is a big part of that
Yeah,
because
the amount of different
you've got
regions.
yeah, so many different countries represented from the European region. So that's a big part of why we see 22 versus 16 day 2 spots. But yeah, it's all broken down here on the Pokemon website. I've got it pulled up here for people who are watching on YouTube, exactly how things will work out. It is going to be a long weekend. Things starting on Wednesday with the check in, the pick up your kits, get your badges, all that type of stuff. And that's always, as a Worlds competitor, has been one of my favorite things is going through that bag, the competitor bag that they give you at Worlds. You're going to get a sweet bag, the plush, you get promo cards, which I think it has been revealed it was Champions Festival, not like totally
Oh, do we know?
officially, but well, yeah, because there was updated on the promo card legality page that said
Oh,
that Champions Festival would not be legal. So it will be Champions Festival,
you
most
said it would be legal, right?
assumedly. It would not be legal.
Oh, it said Champions Festival wouldn't be legal.
Would not be
Was it?
legal because it won't have been out for 2 weeks.
Oh, I mean, wouldn't that just be expected because it would have been rotated up to this point?
There is no Champions Festival legal right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But
They have a
Why would they
site,
update
they have a
that?
section on the website that is promo card legality that they update with all the promo cards, and they
Yeah, but it's
list when they
been
become
illegal
legal.
since rotation, right?
Huh?
That's what I'm saying. It's been a rotated card
Yeah.
since rotation.
Yeah, so
So
they
why is
whenever
that
there's a new
still?
promo card coming out, they put on the promo card legality page on the website when the card becomes legal.
Oh, so it says it becomes legal in a couple weeks?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so yeah, it's just definitely Champions Festival, which I feel like at this point they might just keep it as Champions Festival. I've actually played the Champions Festival in a deck before.
Yeah,
I
it's
played it in,
like not great, but it's
yeah, no.
not a terrible card. Here, I did find it
I've actually played
here
it in
on the
2 decks.
website.
I played in Zora Control, for Colorado regionals, and then I also played it in what was the other deck I played it in? Now I wanna try and remember. It was some other it was in the Shedinja deck, so they can't sit there and Mew ping you with Psi Power over and over. You put the Champions Festival in
Yeah,
play.
in of course in control decks, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, as you can see here on the promo card legality status page of the site, Champions Festival Sword and Shield promo number 296. That's pretty wild that there's been almost 300 promos. I remember Black and White era. I think there was just over 100 promos. So they're
Yeah.
just making that many more products, which is pretty wild to think
Which is a good thing,
about.
right?
Yeah, it's a
Like, I
good
feel like
thing.
that's a
It's a
good
good
thing
thing, I
because
think.
as long as it doesn't, like, ever become, like, Toxi promo, or Toxicroak promo levels of, like, hard to get, like, it doesn't really it's just a good thing that there's more products out there, I guess, right?
Sure.
That's
Yeah,
what the promos usually tie into.
there's been a few promo cards over the years that have been meta relevant cards, and I think promos being meta relevant is not a bad thing by any
Yeah,
means,
yeah, of
but
course.
it just depends on how
Don't wanna
easy
make it
or hard it
impossible.
is to get said promo card. So I think with the World's promo being Champions Festival, a very mediocre to not very good card, something that may pop up every once in a while. I think that's a great place for a such an exclusive card to sit, because what they don't want to happen is what happened with Tropical Beach, right? Where they made Tropical Beach assumedly was not meant to be a good card. It was not meant to be super playable. It was the World's promo for 2012 and 2013, but it started to be really solid in a lot of decks.
Yeah, I mean, got second
Rare
at Worlds
candy
that
decks
year.
specifically could utilize it super, super well. And it became a card that was meta relevant that people needed to play in their deck. And the only way they could have gotten one single copy was by playing in the by getting a qualification to the previous year's world championship. So I think they definitely want to make sure that does not happen again.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that Champions Festival just kind of becomes our forever world championship promo card. So
I mean, I think it would be cool. I actually am curious. I wonder who Ross borrowed 3 tropical beaches from the night before. Probably some of the X Files guys, because Ross got second immediately with the
yeah, but he only
Truth.
played one.
Oh, did he only play
He
one?
only
Really?
played one. He only had one.
Oh, I just assumed he had 4 in there and just like borrowed it from
Yeah,
people.
so a famous Pokemon story for anyone who's unaware. Back in 2011 at the World Championships, Ross very famously played the deck called The Truth, which was a very tanky healing deck with Reuniclus and Zekrom and Donphan Prime and Blissey Prime to heal your
Vileplume.
guys. And Vileplume, yes. All kinds of stuff going on. A really wacky deck. Did I say Donphan? I don't think there was Donphan. Was there
Oh, there was
Donphan?
Donphin,
There
yeah.
was Donphan.
Mhm.
For some reason. Okay. Anyway. Um, so really, really unique deck. One of the most famous Pokemon decks of all time. But Ross rolled up to Worlds 2011. He got his competitor kit, opened it up, read Tropical Beach, and said, "Hey, can I play this in my deck tomorrow? Because this seems pretty good in my deck that I want to play for Worlds." And they were like, "Yeah, sure, go for it. Why not?" So he had already he had 60 cards ready. He had to find a cut, put the one copy of Tropical Beach in there, and ended up getting second place at Worlds. Pretty funny little story, but I think
What a good forward.
it's not something you could do now because of the promo card legality. The rules
Yeah.
are a little different. A card has to be available for 2 weeks before it's legal. So that's why we see Champions Festival on this list here. Upcoming promo cards not legal until September 2nd.
I guess that is a good thing. Like, if they just keep doing Champions Festival, it'll always be legal. And because they print it every year, there won't be even if it is good in one deck at Worlds one time, like there won't be a shortage of them theoretically, right? As well. So,
It's still pretty
or for I guess any
expensive,
event.
even like a any year's English Champions Festival, and maybe it's because it's been a few years since we've had Worlds, has driven the price up a little bit. But even like pretty much any year's English copy is at least $150, so it's still pretty
Yeah.
expensive just because Pokemon collecting has spiked up in popularity so much. Anything that is exclusive like that has kind of in spiked up in coordination with that. But anyway, all that to go back to Wednesday, day
Yeah.
zero of Worlds, where you'll pick up your Worlds swag bag. You'll get your promo cards, your plush. There's always a couple of other little goodies in there. I remember one year there was like a water bottle. That's not something they do every year. I think in San Francisco there was a scarf that a lot of people were a big fan of. One of my favorite ones was actually in Nashville in 2018. I actually have them sitting back here on my shelf. You can see them. Is the guitar picks, which I thought was really cool. I play guitar, and so that was like it's got a bunch of different Pokemon featured on the picks, and they always do something kind of unique like that, based on the location that Worlds is in. So I'll be interested to see what the kind of more unique items are in the competitor kits this year, since it's in London. You got any guesses, Azul? Maybe.
No, I have no idea. I don't. I'm not like I'm not a. I like collecting some card stuff, but I'm not a big fan of just like random, Pokemon trinkets as much, stuff like that in general. So, I have no clue. I have no clue to be honest off the top of my head. What do you think? Can you come up with anything?
I don't know. I
A
mean, the
scarf? I guess a
Pikachu.
scarf again.
Yeah, it could be a scarf. It could be maybe a top hat. That would be pretty crazy. There's
Yeah,
usually
yeah.
like a baseball cap, but imagine they give everyone a top hat like the Pikachu has in the theme,
No
right?
one would wear it, bro. It's got to
Dude,
be a
that's the
cap
thing
again. It's
though,
got to
is
be a
a
head
bunch
cap
of
again.
people would wear it.
Well, for day one Worlds, for at Worlds, but after that, you're not gonna see anyone rocking
Yeah, yeah. Maybe
the
like
top hats
a stuffed
anymore.
rose or something like that. Roserade's
Yeah.
a big one, and Pikachu's holding a couple roses on the plush or whatever. Not the plush, but the uh, the theme picture, right?
Yeah. No, yeah, it's always a ton of fun to see what you get in the bag. I guess some of the stuff has kind of gotten, specifically the sleeves. I guess I remember that's what I was super excited for. My first Worlds was actually getting the sleeves, but the sleeves quality has gone down so much throughout the years. You can't even use
Yeah.
them. You can't even use. You can use the sleeves, but you shouldn't.
The sleeves are so bad, man. And it's really kind of it makes no sense how they've been unable to make a quality official sleeve like pretty much ever.
And they've been
I
partnered with
think the
Ultra
Ultra
Pro.
Pro ones are okay. Like
Oh yeah, those are okay.
the
Yeah.
Eevee ones that you got this year at regionals, I think they are okay. They're just really they're still not great. The Elite Trainer Box ones have just absolutely gone way downhill. They were bad, and then somehow they found a way to make them worse whenever they transitioned them into like the more matte finish. They just got way worse. So I'll be interested to see if the sleeves that people get in their competitor bags this year is it going to be the matte finish the same as the ETB sleeves right now, or will it be kind of the glossier finish of the previous year's World Championship sleeves?
Yeah, I don't know why they don't just have. Well, I guess I was gonna say I don't know why they don't just kind of like, I mean they're partnered with Ultra Pro to an extent, right? So like, why don't they just have Ultra Pro like make them some World Series? But the ones they've put together so far have not been that great either, right? Like the Ultra Ball ones and stuff like
They're
that. So
definitely better though. Like those
yeah,
are
they are
not
definitely an upgrade. Yeah,
they are definitely better than the ETB sleeves, but I don't know why
yeah,
they can't. Surely they could just partner with Dragon Shield, who is like undoubtedly the best sleeve maker. Like
yeah.
Magic is partnered with Dragon Shield, like they've got sleeves and that are released for official games. Like I don't know why they can't just partner with the best sleeve. Like it would make too much sense. But I'm sure
It
I'm
would make
sure
some
there is
sense. Yeah.
there is assuredly a reason behind it, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe they're in a contract with Ultra Pro, and then a year from now they'll be done
Who
with it, and
knows?
then maybe they'll make the upgrade. We'll see. Hopefully, we can all hope that the quality of sleeves improves. The quality of the official Pokemon sleeves improves at some point because it's been bad for a long, long time. Long time. All right. So the only other thing to mention about Wednesday is deadline to submit online deck lists for day one players is at 8 p.m. Now, this isn't anything new for Worlds. However,
Yeah.
this is not really, and this has actually only ever happened one other time at U.S. Nationals that I know of. I remember having to turn in my deck list uh, Thursday instead of Friday at U.S. Nationals one year. But that was the only year they ever did it, and that was back like I think 2012. I want to say we had to turn our list. I remember like getting in line to like check in the night before, and I was on the floor of the convention center sitting on the carpet writing out my deck list, like making last minute changes. So that's the only other time I remember um, besides Worlds. But every year at Worlds, this is always a thing, right? For the day one play. So I haven't had to experience this in a while myself. So and I'm thankful for that. I don't like
Oh.
this. I don't think the players like it.
Mm.
I mean, Chip, you've went through it more recently than I have. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so this is always a discussion that comes up every single year. It feels like for regionals, for anyone who doesn't know, you have to have your deck list submitted by usually an hour before the tournament starts in the morning of
ICs
that
as well.
Saturday. Um, yes, and internationals. So you get the last night of testing there to get things a little figured out. Maybe there one last little tech that you might want, or maybe you just want to swap decks completely. And so every year it feels like there's some people who complain about this, that they have to submit the list the night before and they lose a night of testing pretty much. But honestly, it's pretty beneficial to not have that stress on your back, right? To have picked a deck and submitted it and know, like, okay, 8 o'clock that night, I've got my list in, I'm good to go. And you can just relax for a night. Go get some dinner, go hang out, go sightsee, do anything, get a good night's sleep before the tournament, which I think is way more beneficial than the potential last few hours of testing that you would get, especially since, assumedly, coming into Worlds, you will have been very well tested. You should be very well tested and have a really good idea of what you want to play. So honestly, I mean, I obviously they've put it out here ahead of time, which is what they should do. It would be a little bit disappointing if people were expecting to get that last night, but the schedule was released pretty far in advance this time, so people have known for a few weeks they will have to submit their list Wednesday night. So I
Yep.
think overall it is a good thing, though.
Yeah, I mean it's not a. I mean, but you should be. I mean, it feels like it should like with how easy it like back then. Like even like looking back to that Nats, that was one of those paper deck lists, right?
Hmm.
Now everything. Now that everything's online, I don't really understand the. I guess the point behind making people submit at 8 p.m. as opposed to 8 a.m. the next morning, right? And like give people the choice if they feel like they're there, they want to be with their list, they lock it in, that's fine. And but if someone wants to cram those last 4 hours, whatever, and figure out if they want to play you know, third boss or third Marty, give them those hours if they want to do it that way. I do think I agree with you that there is like, for most players, there's going to have to be some forced peace of mind because you're just going to have to submit it then. And then, you don't have to stress about it for the next hour. So I think it is definitely a plus for some people for sure who maybe, overthink it and stress a little bit too much, but about that kind of stuff. But I think it doesn't make sense to me, especially when we look at regionals and ICs, they're the same, days that you play, like ICs, you play Friday, Saturday. Well, I guess Worlds a little bit different this year. We play Thursday, but Worlds would usually be Friday, Saturday as well, right? So it's like, but you can submit the night before for the ICs, and some regionals are bigger than Worlds as far as player base goes. So I don't see why that would be an issue. So it just feels weird that it's different, uh, seemingly for the only sake of being different for Worlds almost.
Sure.
If they were going to do it with like every other tournament where it was like 8 p.m. the night before, that'd be different, and maybe they have like a reason behind doing it that way consistently. But it seems like it's just different just for Worlds, almost for the sake of just being different. I assume they have some reason behind it, but it doesn't make sense to me as far as I can tell.
I mean, I think it's definitely a plus, but I can understand like wanting those last couple of hours. But
Yeah.
so we move on to Thursday, day one of Worlds, the first day of competition. Doors open at 8 a.m. and then at 9 a.m. there will be an opening ceremony. And the opening ceremony at Worlds always has it serves a few functions, right? It gets people hyped up for the event, hyped up for the weekend, but it's also a global, like, this will be a live streamed tournament. So there will be people watching from home. And so they also use this as kind of an announcement vehicle a lot of the time, a way to release new information, whether it be about the video games. Obviously, there are new video games coming out this year. Scarlet and Violet, I think, are supposed to come out in November, I'm pretty sure is the month that they're coming out. So we will probably see some information there. And they have already said that they're going to show what the first Scarlet and Violet Pokemon TCG cards are going to look like, which our TCG set should come out in January sometime, sometime early 2023. I don't know the exact dates or anything like that. So I'm really excited for this. This is, this is what they've done for the last few years at Worlds. I remember at Worlds 2019, standing there watching the opening clip play, and we see a Pikachu and Zekrom running around,
Yeah.
which was obviously the big card at the time. And then all of a sudden, it's standing in the silhouette of a massive Pokemon with 330 hit points, which seemed like a not real number at the time. There is no way that they are making Pokemon cards that have this much HP, but they sure did, and we got VMAXs just a few months later.
Yeah. 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 Oh, actually, that makes me think. What were the cards that they would have I guess V stars would have been one of them, right? Like the worlds that we miss, what are the cards that we would have gotten?
So
So
let's
V
see.
V
It would
stars
have been probably Rapid Strike, Single Strike.
and V
So
stars, right?
at
Would have been
Worlds 2019 they revealed VMAXs. At Worlds 2020, if it had happened, it would have been Rapid Strike, Single Strike revealed most likely, and at 2021 it would have been V Stars revealed most likely.
yeah, makes sense. Yeah, so we're always gonna get. They always show us some new mechanic for the TCG.
Yep. That's how we
This
got tag
year,
teams revealed
yep.
originally back in 2018. Before that, in 2017, that's where we got Ultra Beasts revealed for the first time. The Buzzwole GX, the Guzzlord GX being shown up on the screen. So we'll see something, whatever the new game mechanic is going to be.
Yeah, and then this year, they also for the TCG or for the VGC, for the VG, for the video game side, they will be releasing some footage for the or some stuff for the new game, I'm sure. But they don't do that every year because there's not a new game every year.
And it's also the opening ceremony is also pretty cool because they'll usually have someone there from from the Pokemon Company Japan come out on
Yep.
stage and say something and introduce something. I remember at Worlds in was it in 2019? Maybe it was in 2018 where they had the Detective Pikachu thing. Do you remember that?
I don't remember
You
that.
don't
No.
remember
Oh no,
that? So
didn't they
they
have Ryan Reynolds? No, he
no,
wasn't
it
actually
wasn't
there
Ryan
though.
Reynolds, but it was the guy and the girl who were the main two characters in the
Oh
movie.
yeah,
They
yeah.
came out on the stage. It was like a little bit of a promo thing, but they also were supposed to have us record a bit for the movie. So I guess a little bit of a spoiler alert for Detective Pikachu. Throw that out there.
Did it make it into the movie? I don't
I
remember.
don't think so, but I don't know 100%. But anyway, at Worlds 2018, I believe it was 2018.
Got scammed.
They came out and said that they were going to be recording our audio in the audience and using it in the movie Detective Pikachu. So they split the room in half, and the left half of the room was supposed to chant Pikachu, Pikachu, and then the other half of the room was supposed to chant Charizard, Charizard. And then there's a part in the Detective Pikachu movie where there's like an underground Pokemon fighting ring that the Detective Pikachu has to go and fight a Charizard. And so, assumedly, that's where that section was supposed to go in.
Yeah.
I saw the movie in theaters. I have not rewatched it since I originally saw it.
Gonna listen for your voice.
I did try to listen. I tried to listen for the chanting, and I don't recall any chanting going on really in the background. So I don't know if it made the final cut. Maybe it got to the DVD release, but don't remember it in the movie theater.
Straight up scammed us so we'd all go see the movie so we could listen to ourselves in the movie, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, they really needed that extra like 5,000 ticket sales for sure.
So yeah, the opening ceremony is always super hype. They usually have like some kind of, I mean, they'll have some of the characters, some kind of like little. I'm trying to like think of the ones I've seen in the past, like the ones in, they'll have like a little performance or whatever to open up with usually, right? Like with some kind of Pokemon characters on the stage. Or am I like thinking of? No, that's right. I'm not wrong on that, am I?
I'm not 100% sure what you're talking about, but I believe you.
Maybe it was just for Hawaii Worlds. Maybe that's the one I'm remembering.
I don't remember. Are you talking about like an animated thing or like people
No,
walking
like
out in the mascot
yeah,
costumes?
mascot costumes. Do they
I
do that
don't
every year? I
remember
feel like
anything like that. Maybe Pikachu has
maybe it was
walked
just
out
Hawaii.
a few years. There was
Maybe it was
like
just like to do.
a
Maybe I'm
Piplup, I
trolling.
think, at the last Worlds because Piplup was kind of one of the other features. So maybe we'll see a Pikachu and a Roserade out on the stage this year. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm actually super like actually noticed this last World. I'm actually super one of the I feel like one of the benefits for me personally of not playing in day one is like sitting there for the opening ceremony. It does kind of like, it you just adrenaline rush or anxiety whatever pumps up. I don't want to play right after that. I remember playing right after that at Vancouver Worlds, I think, and it was not. And now I'm glad that I get to go enjoy this opening ceremony and that you don't have to play until the next day because then you just walk in and everything's a lot more calm and chill,
Sure.
like regionals are normally like.
One of the
So,
many benefits of skipping day one of Worlds. Yes,
so like
Azul.
that, I'm not a big fan of that. Like getting all that energy, everything hype and all that energy, and then having to sit down and play. Not a big fan of that. So yeah, I'm definitely something that I noticed the last time I was at Worlds, but yeah, opening ceremony 9 a.m. and then round one of Swiss for day one will be 9:45. They say there will be a lunch break, and I assume there will. And hopefully they do the same thing that they've been doing on the streams, where they like hold a round back so that the stream isn't delayed. That's super super sick. Something that they've been doing. So hopefully they keep that up.
I would imagine they
Um,
will.
Yeah, and they say here, estimated finish time for the juniors and seniors, 7:30, and then and estimated finish time for Masters division is 8:45. And I don't know if it's on this page or something, but it seems like the estimated amount of rounds for day one is 8, right? I think that's what I've seen multiple times now. Is
I
that
have seen
people are
8.
expecting
It
8?
is not on this page though, but yeah, it should be 8 rounds of Swiss. And what they normally do, the World's Day 1 is different from any other Pokemon tournament in that you only need to get to a certain record in order to make it into day 2. So
Yep.
usually it'll be X2 or better. So you'll get to a 6. Once you get to the amount of match points needed to equate 6 wins, they will
Yeah.
remove you from the tournament and you won't play the remaining rounds and you have qualified for day 2 of Worlds.
Yeah. So once you get 6 wins or 503, they just remove you. Well, if you get 503, you played
Yeah,
out
that's
all
the
the
last
rounds.
round
But
anyway, I guess,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. So you could be like, I can't even think of a record. But yeah, when you get your 18 points or more, you get removed from the tournament. You just show up on the next day, and you do it all over again. But I guess we could talk a little bit here about the. I know we mentioned this before, uh, 2 weeks ago, but the idea of IDing at Worlds is definitely something that is talked about a little bit more. And I think the general thought on it is that you should just not try and avoid IDing, but you're trying to avoid ties just in general. Ties feel a lot worse at Worlds because generally you're going to need to get 6 wins. So most of the times a tie will usually lead to it effectively being a loss,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
So
there's
if you're
really
in a
no
situation, oh, I was gonna say, like, so if you're in a situation, like, if you're in round one and you could either take like a 90% chance to tie the game or a 10% chance to win the game, uh, it's it is I don't know if it's not always gonna be worth to go for that 10% chance, but it's more beneficial to do it there than in any other tournament in Pokemon.
right, definitely. Yeah, a tie. So at regionals, you usually want to get to the record of 6-1 and 2 or 6-2 and 1. So you don't mind taking a tie somewhere because six
Yeah.
two and 1 still makes day 2. Here at Worlds, though, getting a tie means that you have to go now 5-0-3. So if you're sitting at 1-1 and in round 3 you think your game is going to go to a tie, your game tying is of no benefit to you or to your opponent. It is strictly to your detriment. So there should be, you should try to play quickly, keep these things in mind, scoop early if you think you have a low chance of winning a game 1. Go ahead and scoop it up, go to game 2 and game 3 and try your best to come out of the match with a win. And then there's also, always the discussion of gentlemen's agreements coming into play where you and your opponent can, going into game 3, have a discussion of like, okay, listen, I think our game should have a winner. Obviously you never want to ask your opponent to concede to you, that is against the rules, but I think that is usually an appropriate way to say it, right? I think our game should have a winner. Or like, if something that I've done before is like, if we're going into game 3 and one of us really should win that game, I'll say like, if you're ahead on prizes, I'll concede to you if time is called. If we go to time in game
Well,
3, and it's
actually, I don't think you have to be that vague anymore. I'm pretty sure you could just straight up ask your opponent, "Do you want to make an agreement?" The thing that so they used to be before you did have to be that vague. You had to say something along the lines of, "If you're ahead on prize cards, I will concede." Now your opponent does not have to agree, but I'm pretty sure you can
they
just
can just
ask
be like,
straight up
okay,
ask.
that's nice, thanks for that, I
Yeah, you
appreciate
can be
it.
like, "Yeah, that's cool. Thanks." But I'm pretty sure you can just ask your opponent now. You can just be like, "Do you want to make some kind of?" You can't hold up the tournament. You can't hold up your own round. But if you're shuffling up for game 3 or setting up for game 3, you can just ask your opponent, "Would you like to
Yeah.
make an agreement on to decide this game?" Before, if a judge overheard you, they could choose to get involved, and it could lead to game losses or DQs and stuff like that. But I think the rules have changed as of not this season, but last season before this,
The
before
pandemic.
COVID, where you can have that conversation with your opponent. You cannot determine a game by random means, flipping a coin, rock paper scissors. You can't ask your opponent to concede, and the judge will not enforce the agreement. But you can initially make an agreement with your opponent, and don't agree to something. It's very bad to like if you don't want to agree to something, you don't have to. I think that's like important to know, like because yeah, the judge can't enforce agreements, but it's pretty unsportsmanlike, kind of scummy if you agree to something and then kind of back out when it doesn't go your way. If you both agree who's ever had on prizes at the end of turns, and then your opponent's ahead on prize cards. And sure, you could even be in a better board state to win the game,
But if that's
but
what you
you made
agreed
an
on,
agreement.
right?
Yeah, you agreed on something. So make sure you want to agree on something you're comfortable agreeing on, and only agree if you want to. You don't have to. You could, if your opponent offers something, you can be like, nah, I'm good. Let's just play it out. Whatever happens, happens. That's 100% fine. It's also fine to agree, but you should definitely hold up your end of the bargain. And I would hope that your opponent would also, do the same. And like I said, as far as I know, it's a fine to even just straight up ask your opponent if they want to make an agreement. You don't have to kind of do any wordplay with it anymore. That definitely used to be a thing, but I'm pretty sure we've moved past that. Where
Yeah, I
all
think
the
you're
only
right.
thing is that the judges will not enforce any agreement. So if it happens, and your opponent's like, nah, I'm going to take it back. The judge, you can't bring a judge over and be like, well, he said he was going to, and they'll be like, well, I don't care. Pick it up.
Yeah.
I take the tire and move on. So
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of it feels like a weird area because I mean, it's like, and maybe it's not as weird as it used to be. I also just have not been playing quite as much these last few years since I've been doing mostly commentating and stuff. So I don't think I've actually played in like a regionals level tournament since those rules changed. Now that I think about it,
yeah,
but yeah, it is of no benefit to either player in certain situations to take a tie. Now, early on in the tournament, if you take a tie just kind of naturally, I can understand how it feels bad. Like in round one, you're going to game three, and it's like, I don't really want to start off 0-1. But honestly, starting off 0-1 is basically the same thing. You like give yourself a little bit. I mean, is it much better of a chance, do you think, Azul, to start off 0-1 versus 0-1?
if
Is
your
it that
deck
big of a
does nat
difference?
if your deck does naturally tie like a little bit higher than like higher than the average deck, I would say it makes a little bit more sense. And it is possible to get to 503, right? If you I mean, you would have to go into a situation where you could be 401, um, and then or 501, excuse me. You could be 501 playing against another 501, and you two could agree to ID, and then going into the last round, you could play against someone who is then 503. Now it can't be either of the other players that you've already tied against, so there'd have to be another player out there who has the same record who you hit at that point to be able to tie with, right? And then you could both tie to 503, and you'd be comfortable for day two. But I think getting that second tie can be difficult because people generally don't want to tie because yeah, a lot. I feel like a majority of the time it effectively does kind of end up as a loss, especially the early ties where it just doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not going to account. It's going to be hard to get the three ties. It's just going to be hard to get three ties overall because like you're not going to be able to get that next tie until you are 401, right? And even then, if you tie that round and or 501 and you get to
Yeah, 501.
502, if you just get down paired or up paired, then you just can't tie again. So you really want to when you're looking at the standings or whatever and you're at 501 when you go into that round against another 501 you want to make sure there's going to be a 502 that you can ID against the next round, right? Because there might just not be, right? Like you might be forced to get up paired or down paired, so at that point you probably should just take you have two times of playing it out, round 7 and round 8, instead of just having a chance to play it out in round 8 and knowing if you just check the standings that you won't actually run into someone you could ID against in the last round anyway. So they're not, it doesn't feel as good because like in other tournaments like you said, like at regionals, if you get to 621, you make day two, right? And your record carries over. So even if you went in at 612, once again your record carries over, right? So your ties stay. And it's different in day two, potentially going into day three at Worlds, because once again your record could carry over, right? So getting a tie in day two, especially like even for like top cut matters, right? That matters more as well. So it's just really unique because you're playing to get to day two, but your record does not carry over. So ties definitely feel like they matter less. So like if I'm in a situation, like I said, like earlier, like if I'm in a situation where it's like 90% chance to tie the game or a 10% chance to lose or win, I'm probably taking that 10% chance to try and get the win. And if not, I lose. But a tie was basically a loss anyways, right?
In summary for this section, if you are playing in day one, try very hard not to tie.
Yeah, try hard, try hard.
Definitely. And so after the day one ends, we'll have sent a decent amount of people over from day one to day two. They usually what they do is like they have like kind of a number of people they want to try to get there. I think in 2019 it was like I saw a number this week on Twitter. I think someone said it was like 50 or 60, something like that. Went
Mhm.
from day one into day two. This Worlds I think is like a little bigger as far as the player pool. But um, so I'm not exact. And day two's pool is definitely a good bit bigger than in previous years. So
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure how many people will make it over from day one to day two, but it'll be everyone with at least a record of 6 wins. And then you get to kind of relax for a night, celebrate the fact that you made day two for a moment, but you got to get right back into it because you'll have to prepare a new deck or just continue on with the deck that you've maybe make any changes if some things didn't go your way in certain rounds or cards didn't work out the way you thought they would. Maybe you make a couple changes to your list, but most of the time people are going to keep the same deck between day one and day two, it feels like, right?
Yeah, it seems like it's like 75% plus for sure. Keep the same deck from day one to day two. No one really changes. People talk about changing, and we talked about it a little bit last week. Like the bigger testing groups, the testing groups where you got majority of players in day two, a couple in day one. The one that comes to mind is like
The
Xander
Limitless Crew.
Perot, and then yeah, the Limitless Crew, Philip Schultz. I think so they test with a ton of players who are in day two, but they probably won't be playing the deck that everyone in who's in day two is going to be playing. They'll be playing one of their secondary decks to get to day two and then, get to play the secret deck or whatever. So that's like the rare occasion where it happens. But sometimes other people do kind of have that. And it matters more so for those players as well, because they're going to have so many more eyes on them, right? Like everyone knows who Philip Schultz is and Xander Perot are, and they know who they play with, right? So even if people don't think they'll be playing the secret deck that their group has for the next day, they might. So people are going to go check, right? People are going to go over to those players and check what they're playing. It
Bust
matters
out the
so much more for
binoculars.
yeah, it matters so much more for that caliber of a player than the majority of people. So if anyone else has a spicy deck that they've been working on for a while, I mean, my recommendation would just be bring it day one. Because if you're not, someone like a Philip Schultz or Xander Pro, you're not gonna have all those eyes on you. So no one's gonna be looking into it that much, and you'll be able to get away with playing the secret deck or your secret deck or your spicy deck day one and day two and get that full advantage.
Yeah,
Unless
that's
you think for some
always
reason it's better in the day two meta.
it's always been one of the funnier things to me when I've played at Worlds before is sitting there during my round and then like kind of looking up, looking around the room and seeing all the day two players kind of just circling the the play area, trying to see what everyone's playing, kind of looking over, trying to get a good eyesight and figure out exactly what some of the other, those people in those specific situations, what they're playing, and just kind of get an idea of what people are feeling for Worlds in general. It can give you a good idea
Yep.
of I think that usually Worlds Day 1 meta is pretty close to the Worlds Day 2 meta unless one group has like a secret deck that is going to be a lot different, and it's like a group of like 5 or 6 people that are going to have this deck that nobody played in day 1, right? That was kind
Yeah, I
of the
think
case for you guys whenever Isaiah got top 8 with the Pidgey control deck.
I think the meta is pretty close to the same, but I do think that there's a strong advantage in actually bringing something different. I think the decks that actually do well, the ones that are in top 8 or close to it, are going to be different decks
Yeah.
outside of the meta for sure. So, like, I mean, I guess 2019 would be a good example. There was so much Malamar at 2019, and I played against like two. I think I remember Isaiah played against like three or four. I don't think there was any in top 8. So, like, there's a lot of Malamar.
Yeah,
None were very
2019 is a
close.
weird one because the meta was not really refined at all. This meta feels a little bit more refined,
Yeah,
right?
that's fair.
Because 2019 was a whole new set. I think you'd have to compare it to like a few years previous to that, looking at like 2017, or I guess even like 2016 was like pretty much the same format as NAIC,
It was
or Nats,
2016.
US Nationals, I should say. 2016 was the year that Audino won, so I guess that's a big difference. But
Yeah, there was like
we
I think
saw.
Greninja popped up as well.
That's true. I
That
mean, I
was a
guess they
year.
did have the new set Steam Siege, so
Yeah,
that brought the Talonflame. But other than that, it was like we saw the Night March
Volcanion was
decks.
so bad.
What's that?
Volcanion was so bad in that
Volcanion
meta.
was not very
Yeah,
good, yeah, which is really
a
weird because
bunch
it
of
became so good later on.
well, yeah, but it was just Night March was just bodied it. There was no
Yeah.
reason if you couldn't beat Night March, you should not have played. Basically, your deck should not have existed. Like it should not exist if you could not beat Night March like 50% of the time.
Yeah.
And then Volcanion did not do that at all.
But
All
anyway,
right.
so I think that this meta feels a little more defined. I'm sure that a lot of top players will come up with unique things, and it's kind of a bummer that there's not a new set legal for this Worlds, because I've really enjoyed that the last few tournaments where there's like a new set. It really shakes things up big time and lets the deck builders shine a good bit.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. We got Pokemon Go, but I mean, Radiant Charizard Pokestop is probably about the only two things I expect to see much of from that set.
Yeah, unless someone has like the cracked Gyarados or Luna Stones deck, like
Or like
yeah,
I guess something with what's the I was just talking
another
about
one.
it. Oh, the Slowbro or
V
something like that, like
V Star. Oh,
Zorobox
Slowbro.
Slowbro.
Yeah,
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 that would
Slowbro.
be the other thing.
or Mewtwo V Star. I could see like someone having like that is a card I
Okay, you
actually
just
haven't
named
played
a
at
bunch
all.
of things. Okay, so maybe
Yeah.
it does shake it up a bit.
Well, I don't think I was kind of joking with Lunatone and Gyarados, but I think there could be a decent Mewtwo V Star deck out there. To be honest, it is actually a card I played 0 games with just since it's released. Which actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of surprised I haven't even tried to come up with anything with it. Which is like a deck. Like I've always had like a deck that I wanted to play more whenever I was streaming or making content or whatever. So I've yet to play with Mewtwo V Star actually, but this doesn't seem truly terrible. So I could definitely see someone coming up with something. And decks are bad until they're good, right? So you never know. Like a lot of people call decks bad and stuff, but yeah, decks are bad until they're good, right? So who knows if someone's gonna bring some of the new stuff and kind of break it or bring back some older stuff that no one's really thought about.
Right. So then on Friday we'll have day 2 of the tournament, and they actually added in this little bit of an asterisk here, which was
Yeah.
not here previously. So I'll talk about this, but you start in the morning, and then you'll play 9 rounds of Swiss. It does say, or it says up to 9 rounds of Swiss. It will most likely be the numbers for Swiss. I imagine this will just follow like the tournament handbook as far as how many players to how many rounds end up getting played.
Yeah.
Um, but there is an asterisk here that if there are 227 players or more, 9 rounds of Swiss will be played on Friday, August 19th. Every player with 19 or more match points, or the top 32 ranked players, whichever number is greater, will advance. So the exact same format as regionals. That is the same kicker, 227 players. So pretty much Worlds Day 2 is, its own tournament separate from Worlds Day 1. And this is like the real Worlds competition, because whoever wins this tournament is obviously the world champion. So there's a chance that there will be a day 2 Swiss. I really don't think there will be, though. I think it's
Don't
most
think we'll get to.
likely. I don't think that we'll get quite to 227. It's going to be really close, though. Do you think it'll get there, though?
I don't know. I haven't really done the numbers or looked at anything with the numbers. But this wasn't here before. My just assumption was that no matter how many players we had, like it wasn't going to be a huge number. Obviously, we're not going to get to like over 300.
Right.
But no matter how many players we had, it was going to be 9 rounds into asymmetrical top 8. But now they've added this, which is like the standard format for all other major tournaments. Which is if we do get 227 players, we will go to a second set of Swiss rounds. So we might have, and now we might actually have a day 3. We are kind of memeing on it. How like they said there's like the 3 days of
It'll be day
competition.
two's day 2.
Yeah, day 2's day 2. There's 3 days of competition, but I was like, well, they're just kind of making a day for Top Cut, which is like that's fine. I'm sure we all like that. Like I said, everyone who makes Top Cut, I'm sure will really enjoy that. But uh it's not really like a third day of competition. But now it actually might be. We might actually have a third day of competition. We'll actually have to wait and see. And actually, I don't know how they're like spacing out all the Pokemon Go and VG and Poke and stuff. Like, I don't know if is TCG the only people playing on Thursday. I actually don't even know. I don't even know if anyone else playing on Thursday.
There's like a
Um,
page somewhere that has like a full schedule. I don't know exactly where it is, but
okay.
I
Yeah, it looks
can
like
look
actually
real quick.
I see it. I see it now. If we scroll down, there I have more.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
actually, I mean, this is
VG does play on Thursday.
yeah. But
Um,
VG has always, but VG just has always had an asymmetrical top cut. They just always do that. So their top cut is just always like that,
yeah,
which would be something we could take from them
yeah, I would
for
definitely be a
future
fan if
tournaments
this
maybe.
is like what the regionals kind of ended up becoming. So,
I actually
uh,
did see a tweet that said that basically kind of implied that. Where did they say that? And I'll find the tweet. You go ahead to say whatever you're saying. I'll find the
I
tweet.
was just gonna say, so Friday it'll either lead into Saturday being more rounds of Swiss if there's more than 227 players, or we will go straight to Top Cut. And on Saturday, which will be day 3 or day 2 of day 2, or just World's Top Cut, players will play Top Cut, and then it'll play down to just the finals match. They won't play the finals match, and then Sunday will be Championship Sunday, which we'll see all the finals for Pokemon TCG and Pokemon VGC, the juniors, seniors, and masters divisions.
Yeah, and we'll get the announcement of the next year's worlds as always as well.
Yes, yes, they'll announce what
Um,
the location will be. You got any hopes, Azul? Any hopes for next year's
I
world
mean,
spot?
if it follows the trend of Sword and Shield, which is where the video game is being based, it would be Spain, right?
Yeah, so Sword
Um,
and Shield was based on the UK, and so obviously we're having this year's Worlds in UK. The plan was for 2020 Worlds to be here. So this next set of games, Scarlet and Violet, are based on Spain. So it would be pretty interesting if we had like a Barcelona Worlds or something like that, right?
That'd be sick. That'd be sick. And I've been to Spain. I would definitely love to go. And to be honest, I hope they keep that trend up because having it in the U.S. over and over, once in Canada, back to the U.S. over and over again, is definitely it's not the world, even though it is the world championships, right? So I would definitely be cool to see them, branch out a little bit more. Would love to go to have it be in Japan at some point.
That would be
And
cool.
I mean they have a massive player base. That'd be I think a really interesting world. There'd be so many Japanese players who would
I don't think it ever will
participate.
be though, because the World Championships are handled by the Pokemon Company International.
Yeah, but like and I know their tournament system, but their tournament system does play into invites for the end tournament that is run by TPCI. So like, I don't think it's like that big of a conflict or anything.
We'll
You know what
see.
I'm
Who
saying? Like, I
knows?
feel like, yeah, I mean that'd be cool. Okay, so I found the tweet. So this is from an official Pokemon, post somewhere. I don't remember where this is from, but the paragraph that actually like is, I'll link this for you, Chip, if you want to throw it up on
I'm gonna
so the
have to
people
make
on
this
YouTube can
screen look
see.
real funny real quick. Hang on.
Uh, due to the new top cut procedure for this year. Now that could just imply for this year, as in for this worlds, right? After Swiss rounds have been played, all players tied for eighth or better will advance to the single elimination top cut. So it's so that the part that like stands out is due to the top cut procedure, which is it being asymmetrical cut or not. The procedure for this year's world is it being asymmetrical cut. But it says due to the new top cut procedure for this year, which might be implying this next season, which would be sick. I think like most people, I remember
I think
what
that that
two.
probably just means this year's Worlds, but
Yeah, but it could be this year. I two episodes ago or now or whatever. I asked, if anyone doesn't like asymmetrical cut, why? And I didn't see anyone. No, I don't think anyone came forward who didn't like it and said anything. So I didn't see anything in the comments or tweeted uh, at us. So that was good. I was curious, but I was genuinely curious if someone had like if for some reason someone didn't like asymmetrical cut. I'm wondering, curious about the reasons, because so. But if everyone likes it, I don't see a reason why they shouldn't do it moving forwards for all the majors. We'll see, hopefully. But yeah, that's the world schedule.
that is the World schedule, and also worth mentioning as well. We've mentioned it before, but the London Open will be taking place on Saturday, so players
Oh yeah,
who don't make Top Cut will have that opportunity to play in the London Open on Saturday,
in the
which will
London
take place
Open.
alongside Top Cut.
Yeah, the London Open might be really competitive. Well, it'll be more competitive than any Open ever because there'll be
World's
more
Day
day
2
two
players will
competitors.
be in it, yeah.
There'll be a good chunk of day two players, and depending on if we have 5 rounds of Swiss in day two, it'll be pretty. It'll be a pretty competitive Open, right? Like, but if we don't have the 5 rounds of Swiss, or if we do have the 5 rounds of Swiss day two, it'll be a little bit less competitive because a lot of those players will have probably
Right.
made, you know, to play on Saturday to continue the World Championship dream.
Well, and I think it is time to move on from the world's schedule discussion and move on to, of course, everyone's favorite segment of the cast, Guess That Flavor Text, where each of us takes turns picking a bit of flavor text from a Pokemon and having a Pokemon card from over the years and having the other host guess what card that is. And we've actually got something pretty cool that a viewer, a listener of the cast made for us. Shout outs to Sean over on Twitter, tagged myself and Azul and said that they made a tool for everyone to guess, or a tool for everyone's favorite segment of the podcast. And it is a website, guessthatflavortext.com, where you can either go in and search a card, type in a card name, and look for that specific card and find the set and all that stuff, or you can roll the randomizer and try to guess a random card's flavor text. And that's actually what Azul and I are going to do this week. So I have not picked a card for Azul to guess. It is Azul's turn to try to get a pick, though. So I'm just going to click guess a random card here, and whatever comes up, we're going to roll with. Big shout outs once again to Sean for creating this tool. And let's see what we get. It could be a hard one. It could be super easy. Let's see, Azul, are you ready?
Tips leaving it up to chance this week. Yeah, I'm ready. And yeah, make sure we'll leave the link for the site in the description
For
as well,
sure.
so you guys can check it out and just get some flavor text
Yep,
whenever you get bored.
guessthatflavortext.com. Here we go. It has the power to travel across time, but it is said to appear only in peaceful times. So as you can see
Well,
here on the site, there's the 3 different lifelines: show the set, show the stage, or show the attack, and then a place for you to type in your guess. Once again, I'll read it one more time. It has the power to travel across time, but is said to only appear in peaceful times.
Well, having the ability to travel across time makes me think that it is Dialga, because Dialga is the master of time Pokemon or whatever. Palkia is the one master of space. Um, but that seems like too easy. But I don't wanna just guess Dialga because I want to guarantee some points to tie up Chip, because I'm one behind Chip on points, so I'm at least gonna try and tie it up. So if I have to burn all three lifelines to get there, I will, to guarantee it. But so I guess to start off, I am gonna do a lifeline because I'm pretty sure it's Dialga, but we're gonna start with lifeline. See if I have to think too much harder. What stage is the card?
So I'll click here, show stage. It is a basic.
Okay, it is basic. I'm not completely convinced yet. The other one that I'm thinking of is Jirachi for some reason. I don't remember if I remember like the only thing I remember about Jirachi, any lore that I have on Jirachi, is I watched the movie, the Jirachi movie way back when. So maybe some of that is coming to me in this moment. But I don't know if Jirachi can time travel. I'm not sure on that one. But for some reason, Jirachi's coming to my head. But I don't think it's Jirachi. All right, we're gonna go with an attack name.
All right, show attack. The attack name is Sprouting.
Sprouting?
Sprouting.
Well, that's definitely not Dialga. So now I just have no clue. Sprouting. So it makes me think it's probably a grass type Pokemon because sprouting, sprouts. I can't think of a time. So can you read me the flavor text one more time?
It has the power to travel across time, but is said to only appear in peaceful times.
Travel across time. That means time travel, right? For a second, I was thinking maybe I like heard it wrong and it just means like travel fast. But travel across time, that means basically time travel. But only appears in peaceful times. Oh, is it Celebi? The attack name is Sprouting?
The attack name is Sprouting.
I know Celebi's coming to mind now. I guess I'm gonna use my last lifeline. At the very least, I'm hoping to tie Chip up here. So, what is the last one? It's
Diamond
the
and
set.
Pearl Mysterious Treasures. You played back then.
Oh
A little
my!
bit.
I don't rem. Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember any of the cards in this set. Mysterious Treasures. I think that was the set with Azalf, Mesper, and Uxie, but none of them have the attack Sprouting. No, it might not have been Mysterious Treasures.
I will
I
tell
don't
you that
remember what
those
was in
cards,
Mysterious
the
Treasures.
setup Uxie and the Azelf and stuff, are in Legends Awakened. But
Oh, okay.
I don't want to help you out too much, but I do believe there is
I
still, and I'm not
I don't think
100%
I'm
sure. I
guessing
do believe
them.
there is still AMU in Mysterious Treasures.
Yeah, I don't think I'm guessing AMU, AM or U. I mean, sprouting is just I just have no clue, and it can travel through time. The attack sprouting. I
Let's
mean, I
get a
am just gonna
guess
go with
here.
I'm gonna go with Celebi. I'm just gonna go with Celebi.
I do not know what this is either, for whatever it's worth. I think Celebi is a good guess, though. I would probably lean towards that. And I do think there is a Celebi in Mysterious Treasures. Let's see it. I'm submitting. And you were right, Azul.
Yeah.
Celebi from Mysterious Treasures. With the Sprouting
Oh my
attack, search your deck for
gosh,
a grass energy and attach it to Celebi. Shuffle your deck afterwards.
that was so difficult. I was so confident in Dialga until because I was like I just didn't know any other
It's a
time
good
travel
thing you
Pokemon.
asked for an attack name.
Yeah, yeah. 'Cause I was waiting for something like Rewind Time or something like, and I was like, all right, then I'm
That's
locking
got to be
Dialga.
Dialga,
Yeah.
yeah.
You said sprouting. I was like, what?
Sprouting?
And then I was like, well, it has to be an older Pokemon once you gave me the set. I knew like I can apply a little bit of my Pokemon knowledge to the sets, but very, very little. All right, well, I tied you up.
There you go.
Um, I have
Shout
to
outs
try
once
and
again to Sean for the
yep.
website. We'll probably use this every now and then moving forward, maybe, but we'll probably still pick some of on our own. But very cool. Definitely a little bit of fun to mess around with. So be sure to check out the website, guessthatflavortext.com. And we will move on here to our Q&A segment of the cast. So we took some questions over on the podcast's Twitter. We answered a couple last week, but we wanted to mostly look at them this week. So I just tweeted out over there on the podcast Twitter at uncommon_energy. If you ever want to submit questions for us, we do tweet this out before tournaments a lot of the time. Try to take questions from the listeners. But I just tweeted out and asked what some of the questions people had about Worlds would be, whether it be the meta, the format, or just Worlds in general. What do you want to know? We've got a couple different things here we're going to talk about. Some of them just being kind of general questions about Worlds, and then some being more meta specific about decks and cards and all those type of things. So let's kick things off. We've got two questions here that are actually kind of similar. One from Andrew, who asks, "What is your favorite thing to do at Worlds?" And then one from Triple J, Jeremy Jalen, who asks, "What's the best thing to do for spectators during Worlds?" So, if you're a competitor, obviously, to look at Andrew's question more so, you're gonna spend most of your time playing in the event, but you will have some downtime. Or if you are playing in day one and don't make day two, you'll have all of day two to kind of do whatever you want, since the open doesn't take place until the day after. I don't know, Azul. I guess as someone who has the last few years not had much to do on day one of Worlds. So what do you kind of do to occupy your time?
Well, I mean, the last times has just been testing, to be honest. I didn't do too much outside of that. Um, so yeah, but like after that, I mean, I love traveling in general. I love just seeing the sights, walking around. I like taking walks actually. Like whenever I go to a new place, I like just walking around the general area. I mean, I also am. I mean, I feel like some people say they love food, but no one really hate. No one ever dislikes food. But so most people like food. I'm a huge fan of trying to go find like good local places to eat. Don't go to. I mean, the novelty of going to something like the McDonald's in UK and stuff is cool once, but like don't try and avoid like ordering pizza in or stuff like that. Go like just go on Google, look up good local places near you for food. It's so easy to find so many good places that are like a little bit of like more like hole in the wall places, or just stuff that's good, just like good food instead of like going to the nearest restaurant near you or the nearest pub or something. Go out of your way to like try and find good food when you travel for sure. So that's something I always like to do. And I remember distinctly from the last time I was at London at by the Excel Center because there was the IC there. The restaurants around there were not that good and very expensive. So I don't recommend eating at any of the restaurants right next to the Excel Center. I don't remember any
It's
of them
been a
being
few
very
years
good.
though. Maybe something else has popped
Uh,
up.
maybe. The O2 Center was pretty cool, which isn't super far from. I stayed near the O2 Center the last time I was in London, but I remember none of the places were like super great. But yeah, make a little bit of an effort to Google some restaurants and stuff for sure. That's definitely something I always like to do when I travel to a new place for sure.
And something as far as, so I was a spectator at Worlds in 2019. I didn't get my invite. I did go to play in the open still and like hang out with friends and stuff. So I still went to the opening ceremony and stuff. Did kind of all the typical things and got to watch all that play out. And then I played in like a couple side events. I found some friends to play old decks with. Um, and I also like would just kind of watch around and try to watch the tournament play out. I'd watch the stream. They've got a great setup there in the auditorium with, or in the event hall, I guess, with a bunch of chairs, a huge screens and stuff like that. It's really fun to kind of sit there and watch the TCG matches. I also like would watch some of the VG games. This year, there's going to be a lot more going on with all the other games happening, Go, Unite, and Pokken Tournament. So plenty to watch, plenty to check out. Definitely visit the Pokemon Center at some point. I think you have to make reservations.
Yeah,
We
that's what
didn't
I
ever
was
actually end
gonna.
up talking about that on the cast, but I think there was a little bit of fiasco with that last week. But I'm not sure if
Yeah,
reservation spots are still open.
I don't think they went by very fast. I was pretty easily able to register for a spot on Thursday. And yeah, if you don't know, you should go. There was a couple problems. The first thing is they did out the initial post, and then they were like, use the trip management advisor or something. I forget what it was called, to schedule your booking, and that it just didn't exist. No one could find it.
Yeah.
um, and then it eventually appeared, and you could do it. Some people got their slots confirmed or whatever to visit the Pokemon Center, but then it just stopped working. And I got there as it stopped working, so I wasn't able to reserve my time initially. But then an hour or so later, I was able to get in pretty comfortably, reserve my time to go to the Pokemon Center. So make sure you do that if you haven't and you want to go. There's no point in not going, especially if you're there just kind of a spectator about walking around. Something to do. Go check out the exclusive Worlds stuff. This is stuff that only is available at Worlds, like with the
Yeah.
Worlds theme and all that stuff. It's not going to be available anywhere else any other time. So go check it out. Get a playmat, get a hat, a backpack, whatever, with some of the exclusive Worlds theme. And actually, I'm excited to actually watch some Unite. To be honest, I'm going to see. I'm curious to see what their setups are like, and I mean, like whenever I like think of it a little bit, it always makes you think of like kind of more old school console esports when people be like trash talking each other. I don't think any of that's gonna go down, but if something does go down, it'd be pretty cool to watch. So I don't think so. I don't
Slamming
think anything like that's gonna
controllers.
happen. Yeah, I remember watching like MLG Halo 3 back in the days,
Yeah.
and they'd be standing up talking shit immediately after every match. So I mean, yeah, unite. I could see. I don't know also like slam their freaking Switch, but
Yeah, true. I wonder
yeah.
what the
So I mean, it's
setup's
gonna be a
gonna
little more
look like. Are
chill.
they gonna have like TVs there for everyone, or are people gonna be sitting there playing on their Switches? Like,
Oh, I
are
didn't
you
even
gonna
think about
have to
that. I
play
just
in
kind of
handheld mode, or
assumed
can you play in docked, or what?
that would suck if you have to like play on your Switch. I could not imagine doing any of that. Oh, I mean, I guess you could always plug in a
I mean, the
controller,
video
right?
game
But
plays on their Switch.
yeah, but that's not
You got to push like two buttons.
no mechanics involved. You're
Yeah,
not trying to
yeah.
like see stuff.
Yeah,
So
that
yeah,
would
I don't know.
definitely
Yeah,
not be great. For
yeah.
what it's
Hopefully they
worth
have
about
TV for everyone.
the Pokemon Center reservations, I did just go look. I've got it pulled up here, and I just for two people said I was trying to make a spot, and there are a ton of spots available for all 4
Yeah,
days. Friday or Saturday, less spots than the other days. But it does still look like you can pretty reasonably go make a reservation if you
yeah,
are
but
going
don't
to London
be
and want to. Definitely something we both recommend trying to do.
yeah, don't be lazy about it either though. Just go do it. If you're hearing us talk about it right now, and you haven't done it. Just open up a web browser, pull it up on your phone. Just go do it. You don't want to be one of those people who waits to 2 days before the tournament, then it's all filled up by then. So just go do it. Get it out of the way. That way you don't regret anything.
Pokedaxi asks, "What about Worlds are you guys most excited about?" So it a little tougher for me this year since I won't be there. I'm definitely excited still to watch the stream and see if they are doing any kind of new things or have any new setups or anything like that. So I'm excited and looking forward to that. But Azul, is there anything special about this Worlds that you're looking forward to, different from past years? Maybe something you're excited to try out, anything like that?
Of course, the new card mechanic reveal will be sick. And then yeah, anything new as far as production goes, whether it be at the event, I feel like they have been trying more and more, especially this like half season. So I'm curious to see if they try and if they really up the level of everything at Worlds, which I hope they do. I hope they do. I hope it's different and just kind of better. On the in person side of things, but also on like the stream viewing side of things. For people who are watching at home.
Yeah, really bummed to be missing this one. Stefan Erickson asks on Twitter, we talked about this a little bit. Asks, on Worlds Day 1, do you go for two IDs if that guarantee you Day 2, or would you play? So if you find yourself on Day 1 going into round number 7 with a record of 5-0-1, you know that you either have to tie twice or just win one. Do you take the chance and ID and hope you don't get up paired or down paired, or do you just take your shot and play? You know that you're going to get to play round 7 and round 8. Do you just play it out?
I think it just depends on how many other people have ties. Actually, Stefan Erickson put out a very like statistical, detailed video on this over on their YouTube channel, and that's what Stefan usually does over on their YouTube channel as well. Just very statistical, mathematical breakdowns of stuff in Pokemon. So you should go check out their YouTube channel, Stefan's Classroom, and they just released a video literally yesterday about to ID or not ID Worlds Edition. So yeah, I think it just depends on how many other people have ties. So the chance that I would be able to run into someone else with a tie on the next round. And then if the current top half of the players is odd or even, or like everyone ahead of you with just like wins, or is it an even number or an odd number? Like, will there be an up pair, right? Because pairings happen from the top down. So if there's 5 people at 5-0, and then the 401 start, if there's 2 4 or 401s and they all become 402s, one of them is getting pulled up or something like that. I guess
It's
that would even
always a
be
little
possible. There would be
awkward
someone pulled up.
on the lower end to try to predict because like you don't know who's already played each other, right? Because you
Yeah,
can't
that as well.
obviously you can't play someone two times in one tournament unless it's day 1 Swiss versus day 2 Swiss, right? So you can't
Yeah,
play
so
the same person twice in day 1 of Swiss. So there's a chance that if there's only like 4 people at an X1 record, which there wouldn't be in this instance, but just theoretically, they cannot play in like two of them are playing a set that's already played each other, you know what I mean? And they can't
yeah.
actually play each other next round. So they're going to get paired to people who have ties, who have different match points.
Yeah, it just depends on the likelihood of you hitting someone else who has those ties. But definitely go watch Stefan's video to get
For
as
sure.
much insight as possible, especially if you're a player in day one. Stefan Erickson, Stefan's Classroom over on YouTube. Go check out their video. And then they'll give you the most in depth answer possible on that.
Question from our friend Eric over at Rare Candy. Shout outs to Eric, who made all the graphics for the Uncommon Energy podcast, all the graphics that we use on the YouTube channel, our Twitter banner, logo, all that stuff. Eric asks, what do you want to see mechanically from the Scarlet and Violet cards being revealed at Worlds? I think my big hope is that it's something that's not big basics. We've had big basics with, Pokemon V becoming Pokemon V Star, so it's like not really like big basic EXs back in the day. I think it'll be hard for them to replicate going from V Maxes to V Stars and then trying to pare it down to something similar to the GX mechanic where it's like we had
Yeah.
really strong evolutions and then also like solid basics. I think that was kind of like the best era of the ultra rares of recent memory. I definitely prefer it over EXs. I'm talking about GX's pre-tag teams, obviously. I don't know. What do you think, Azul?
I mean, they could try and like one theory that I had when like V Stars were kind of first released is that maybe they're trying to scale things back because it does seem V Stars have dominated V Maxes for the most part, right? Like in
They've
that
pushed
trade,
them
like
out
they're
for
just
sure.
yeah. So what if they just release basic Pokemon that are just really good? And sure, it might seem bad to begin with, but then what if they release basic Pokemon
Like
or
single
stage one?
prize Pokemon, you
Yeah.
mean?
Then what if no, like basic Pokemon like V's, you know, Buzzwole level stuff. Like, what if they release a bunch of stuff like that, and that kind of overtakes most of the V stars? Maybe Palkia and Arceus are still good, but others can't compete. And then eventually they release stage ones in basic Pokemon that are only worth one prize card, and then now they can compete with the two prize basic Pokemon, and they kind of slowly bring everything back to that level over the next, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And then maybe, I mean, maybe they'll have to rescale everything up, or maybe they can find a happy medium where they can keep stuff at that range. Who knows? Maybe the V stars are just V stars and they don't have any of that in mind at all. But V stars have pushed V maxes out of the way. So if you released a bunch of cards like Buzzwoles, level stuff, big basics that are just like push the V stars out of the meta, and then they release a bunch of stage ones that are just good, and then because they're worth one prize card, and your basic is worth two prize cards, they're even at the very least, they can slowly bring things back and scale stuff back as far as power level goes. It'd be interesting. Maybe they'll be able to do that. And then stage twos can get involved at that point as well, right? Like they could eventually just get stage twos involved. So it'd be cool to see it get back to that point. I think a lot of people would be a big fan of that. I don't know if that's what they're trying to do with V Stars to begin with, if that is a scale back, but I would like to see something that kind of progresses that theory.
I agree. Yeah, maybe just moving towards scaling things back over the next couple of years. It's definitely something you have to have planned out way in advance. I don't know if that's one of their goals, what they really want to do. I think they
Yeah.
like the big
It's
flashy
hard to
cards
tell.
that sell booster packs.
I mean, they
you
can still
know?
make them too. Like if we get to the point where they bring back like breaks and like SP level X's, like those are still big hot cards when they first dropped, right? Like they don't have to be worth two prize cards, right? They
Yeah.
can still be. They're
The
still like
fact
the
is, the
cool shiny
people who
cards.
buy those cards, they don't care if it says in the bottom right, "This Pokemon gives up 2 prizes, this
Yeah,
Pokemon gives
yeah.
up 3 prizes."
Nobody
They just
cares.
care what it
Nobody
looks
cares.
like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know if like the HP number is like a big influence either. Like it's just compared. Like I said, like little Timmy, he just wants a card that does the most damage compared to the other cards, right? So if it's doing 100 damage, but everything else does 10 damage, that's fine, right? That's a big number still in comparison to what everything else is. Simply have something doing 300 damage when everything else is doing 200 damage. It's the same thing, right? Like it's just doing 100 more damage, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't need to be too ridiculous. Little Timmy was still trying to get that the big shiny one.
Next question comes from Joshua Yell, who asks, "This is my first Worlds, so what is the biggest mistake you expect me personally to make, and how do I fix it?" So maybe I guess just thinking, let's think a little bit more generally for this.
Yeah.
First time Worlds competitors, because Joshua's definitely not the only one listening to the cast and participating in Worlds Day One. What is a common mistake you think you would see from first time Worlds competitors? Versus people who are a little bit more experienced.
Um, I think there's like two different play like with the coaching I've done and the people and like everyone I've talked to up to this point, for this worlds or other worlds, I think there's kind of two players with two different mindsets. Like some players I've talked to and coached heading into this world are like, if I make day two, that's it, I'm good. And I'm like, and that's what and then they're like, I don't really care about anything else, right? And they're not even like so much even like nervous or anxious about that. They're just like, I'm gonna try and make today two, and that's it. I'm cool with that, right? They're not even trying to win worlds, which I think everyone should have some, aspiration to try and win worlds, right? But then I feel like there's some people who overthink everything. They're like, am I playing the right deck? Do I have the right techs? How am I gonna be able to make a day two? When I get to day two, should I switch my deck? Do I add these techs? What's the meta for day two going to be like? So I think there's part of it where it's just like, just be confident in your own play no matter what, and don't kind of worry about anything else, and just kind of remember at the end of the day that you're just playing Pokemon, and don't over. I think overthinking is probably the biggest thing. Um, but I feel like there's some people who overthink everything, and then I don't know what I would even tell them, but the people who don't overthink anything, I don't even know what I tell them. But the people who do overthink everything, just stop overthinking it. Just treat it like any other tournament. I don't think it's like too much different. When you're there the night before the tournament, it's just the same thing as any other major tournament you're going into, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say. I mean, I definitely hear that first point of people not really caring about what happens at Worlds because they've already accomplished their main goal, which was getting an invite,
Yeah,
right? And which is fine, and it all kind of depends on what you are wanting out of it. But I would hope that most people who are playing in Worlds want to win the thing. Like
yeah. Like I said, there's some little bit of aspiration, but I know like I said, like I've talked to quite a few people who are just like they would be very content with making day two. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And maybe their next Worlds is when they're like, all right, now my goal is to win the thing or top eight at
top
whatever
80,
they're
yeah,
the next thing. I think that can be a reasonable goal, and it's hard for me to like uh personally like kind of think that way because I've been doing this for so long. The only thing I feel like I maybe have left to do is win worlds at this point. Even like before I won an AIC, whether or not I won an IC, if I win worlds, I feel like I've achieved the thing, right? But now I've won an IC, and I feel like for me, like personally, I can't even think about it in terms of being content with getting my day two invite or making top eight. It's kind of like win worlds or nothing, which is how I definitely feel at like regional or even IC level events. It's like if I didn't top eight the event, I probably messed up somehow pretty bad, right? So I
sure.
don't know. For me, it's hard. I've been doing this for so long, and I've been in a dominant or a top position like this, day two invites and all that stuff for so long. It's hard for me to kind of scale things back and think like, well, if I went to my first worlds, if I just made top 32 at my first worlds and then lost in the first round, I'd probably be pretty happy, right? Like, but it's hard for me to think in those terms. It's been so long.
Sure. All right, well, that does it for the kind of more general questions. We'll move on to some that are more meta specific. And the first one being from Mr. Sharney, who asks, will there be a different metagame on seniors compared to masters? And I guess we can also throw juniors in there. And the
Yeah,
answer is, I would say yes. The seniors and juniors meta definitely is usually very based on, it doesn't
meta.
evolve as quickly as the masters division, right? Masters
Yeah,
tend much more to think ahead, think on the counters and stuff, whereas juniors and seniors usually are just going to be playing the top lists with maybe a couple changes from the last big tournament. So juniors and seniors, I expect their it's more so in juniors, less so. You kind of see this evolution of like,
yeah,
juniors. It's really dependent on the last Masters tournament. So most of juniors is going to be Arceus Intellion, Palkia Intellion, some Muse. It's going to be like those decks are going to be a huge percentage of the
yeah,
meta in
definitely.
juniors. Seniors, it'll still be a pretty large percentage of the meta, but there will be a lot more players trying to counter, right? You that's where people are starting to kind of come into their own as far as like building counter decks and thinking about the meta a little bit more in depth. And then when it
Yeah,
comes to masters, I would even say like you could even throw another step in there: masters day 1 versus masters day 2, where Masters Day 1, there will be, still the big decks will be, played and probably do pretty decently, but you'll see a lot more counterplay. And then Day 2, there'll be the most counterplay, the most meta evolution of any of the, different tournaments happening at this event.
yeah, definitely for sure. Yeah, I definitely like think that's pretty much it. I guess the one thing I was like the one way I kind of describe June or seniors and juniors meta is like it's a lot more like it's like a lot more of the meta is just the top decks, like you said. But generally, and now it's a little bit different at Worlds. Generally, whatever wins the tournament is just going to be whatever the best players decide to bring in those divisions because it's so top heavy in juniors and seniors. It's like ridiculous,
Yeah.
especially in juniors. It gets like it spreads. I think the same thing. It's the evolution of it. In juniors. There's like 8 players and they're always top eight at every major tournament. Seniors, like just kind of give an example, like not numbers. In seniors, there's like 16 players and 8 of them are always in top eight. And in masters, there's like it's way more all over the place, right? But at Worlds, you're taking those 16 best players from North America with the 16 best players from Europe for seniors, plus the 16 best players from Latin America. I don't know how many are going to make their way from Australia. Probably not quite as many, but you have the best players from there as well. So, and they generally play whatever they want, right? Because they're just successful playing whatever they want. So at the top level of it in day two is going to be it could be anything for juniors and seniors. A lot of it still will be meta because a lot of them still just like playing meta decks. But, if one of them wants to play Stone Journer and he's just a really good player and they just play Stone Journer, them getting top eight like wouldn't be a surprise, kind of something like that, right?
For sure.
Regigigas is more likely to have success in juniors or probably juniors or seniors than masters, just because if a good player brings up the skill is what separates the players less so than the deck choice. But there definitely will be some seniors players and juniors players for sure who find and bring their own spice or are working with some of the bigger testing groups, like we saw Kaya 2019 playing the Ability Zard, took down Seniors Worlds that year, right? Playing the deck that Tor did. So some of them will also be working with some of the bigger masters testing groups as well,
Yeah,
like Reagan.
Reagan Retzloff
Yep.
tests with, he's one of the best seniors in the game, and he tests with, Isaiah Bradner, Rahul, John Ang, all those guys. So,
It
which
tests with
is,
all of them and still somehow ended up bringing Beedrill, Peak,
yeah,
and
he chose a
Teleon Arc.
different deck than all of them for in AIC, but it's okay.
Yeah.
He got second place. I think
Yeah,
he's
second
okay
place is
with
still it's
it.
still pretty good. He would probably be playing that getting second, or would have played the mirror match against Rune,
And then
the
flip the
exact 60
coin.
mirror. Yeah, and then flip the coin. So it's like fine either way, right? All right, next question from Zapdos TCG. Shout out to
Oh,
Zapdos.
I think you
Uh,
skipped one.
oh, did I miss one? All right, well
Katana
we're on.
TCG.
We'll make we'll
We'll
make our
go
way
back. We'll go
back.
back. It's
Yeah, we'll
fine.
go back. Zapdos TCG, is Stone Journey VMAX a real option for Worlds? It's pretty good against the top two decks, but
Yeah.
I don't like its chances against the unknown. What do you think, Chip?
I mean, kind of going back to our last discussion from this last question, maybe Stone Journer would be a good play for a solid juniors player, because if a lot of the other people out there are just playing Arceus Intellion and Palkia Intellion, Stone Journer does pretty good against those two decks.
Yeah.
But like I mentioned in the last section, there's just going to be so much more of a meta evolution, and Stone Journer really struggles against everything that is not those two decks.
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, I could see like bringing it as a day one play if you really want to keep your day two play secret. Like it could be but I actually don't think Arceus Intellion is going to be that popular. Like I think like more aggressive builds of Arceus Intellion will be more popular, like the Charizard, Zigzagoon stuff. But like the NAIC build, I just don't think it's very good overall. So I don't expect it to. I think more people will come to that conclusion by this time, and it'll be less of that at Worlds and more Palkia and Intellion than other stuff.
Yeah,
But
Stone Journer very okay, I think.
be a cool day one play or a
If
good
someone
play
makes
in
top 8 with
juniors.
Stone Journer, they go down in history though.
They do. I mean, you just need to hit enough Palkia, right? There's gonna be a lot of Palkia. You can guarantee that. Every round you enter, you'll probably have a chance to hit Palkia, unless like you're the only two players who are 6-0. But at that point, you're probably IDing.
And then Katana, I guess a similar question in this vein, to Zapdos. What deck tier 2 or below has the most potential to be successful? So probably not Stone Journer. But I guess
Yeah.
you think of all the tier 2 or below decks, Stone Journer is the one that's most likely to be successful?
Well, hold on. I actually put out a tier list the other day on my YouTube channel. And the most controversial pick of mine was that I put Arceus and Teleon in tier 2. And
Oh, everyone flaming you for it?
yeah. You don't like that. Oh, I also put I mean my only tier ones were Palkia and Mew. I still think Mew, the testing I've done with Mew leading to Worlds has reminded me how good Mew is. I kind of was sleeping on it myself. Mew is really good. Mew is really, really good. But my personal pick would probably be Urshifu.
Or did you do this on stream? Or did you
Yeah.
forget to pull down the
No. I
overlay
did
that
it.
had the
I did it
round on it?
on. I did it on. Got to reuse the content chip. Got to reuse it when you can. I
So
mean, people would want to.
all right, of the things, so you put Mew VMAX tier 1, which I guess is not
Yeah.
unreasonable.
Like after I tested, like I would have like right after NIC, I would have put it tier 2. But the more I did play with the deck, and how much more people are not preparing for it and are willing to prepping for it and are willing to play decks that lose to it is like going up, right? Like, so yeah, Mew's still pretty good. Mew's still pretty good.
So what was your
Catchers.
answer for this question then?
Oh, I would have done Urshifu would be my
Urshifu,
pick, I
okay,
think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Be my tier 2. Dialga maybe. I really like Dialga as well, but
Dialga's cool. All right, I'm gonna say something, and it is a deck that I dislike. I do not think it is a good deck, but it does well. It has the numbers. It has proven that it can beat the top decks,
Well, then you
and
can't think it's a bad
it
deck.
won a regionals this year, and that is Arceus
Duraludon? Ah,
Duraludon.
no way! That deck
Yes,
is
I
so bad.
it is Azul, but it was it bad when
It's
it won a
so bad.
regionals? It was, wasn't
Yes, it was.
it?
I literally said on the cast, like, if you reran that regionals, I think maybe one Arceus Duraludon would be in cut. Maybe one. There wasn't as
Arceus
much Arc Intel though.
Duraludon top 8 worlds. It
It was a
could
tournament for it to
happen.
make it. Yeah. I think I do kind of agree. Like almost as the same. Like it's another deck people are preparing for a little bit less. And Arc Intel, like I said, I think there's gonna be less Arc Intel. That is but I think Mew is kind of taking Arc Intel's spot. Like the meta is just like the meta percentage between those two decks is just kind of shifting from Arc Intel to Mew, which
But I don't
Mew is
even think
pretty
most
rough.
Mews will probably have like a big deal in that matchup is if Mew plays the Echoing Horn or not. And
Well, the
it's
horn just like auto wins. Without horn, it's like
right.
50-50.
Yes,
So
yeah, I agree. So that's what I'm saying. It's a big deal in that matchup, and I think
it
that
is
a
true.
lot of Mews are not playing the horn right now. Some still will be, and it's still just a solid card against like Arceus decks in general. So I think like it's a reasonable card for any Mew player to want to keep in their list.
Yeah, it can't
Um,
hurt to have.
but I do think like if Mew is popular and people aren't playing that much horn, and then like Palkia and Inteleon, it does Arceus Duraludon does pretty decently against Palkia. Um, it does not the best versus Arc Intel, and if it's on the downswing, maybe maybe it could make a run.
Could happen. All right, our last question here coming from.
Bro, what are you even looking at? We have two more questions.
Did I skip another one? Our second to last question coming here from at Pink Mudfish. Do you expect any older meta decks to reappear? Older meta deck examples: Whimsicott, V-Star, Single Strike, Jolteon, VMAX. None of those. But I think it could. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, and the cast was just like, people have their secret decks, and that could be something new from Pokemon Go, or it could just be, reviving something like the Urshifu. I think Single Strike, Whimsicott, or Jolteon VMAX would be those decks, but I think it is definitely possible there's something out there that people are cooking up.
Yeah, the three examples they gave, I think there's a pretty decent reason for all three of them to that they've not been as successful as they were in the past. I mean, and so I almost would say it depends on if you think Rapid Strike Urshifu is something that has not appeared, and though it hasn't been a huge part of the meta, it is still like reasonably played. I think it's one of the top decks still on Limitless, like still one of the top 10 decks played.
It is really good too. It's just kind of the metas
Or
have
it's
been awkward
13th,
for it
I
as of
guess.
the metas have been awkward for it as of late. It was like, okay, going into NAIC, you had to really deal with Mew and Palkia, and that's really hard to do. Now coming out of NAIC, something that I've mentioned before, and it seems to be not a general consensus, but more people are willing to do is like take a loss to Mew, and Mew has been way less popular in like the online tournament. So now Urshifu can just be like, okay, I can be consistent and focus on my Palkia matchup and just take the loss to Mew, and it won't hurt my win percentage in the meta as much as it did before, right?
Yeah,
Um,
maybe
I
some.
feel like Urshifu's just always good, so Urshifu doesn't really count. I don't think that's what I'm
So
trying to say.
I just went back and looked at the Brilliant Stars meta from on Play Limitless and looked at some of the top finishing decks that we haven't seen much of, and two that stick out to me: Rapid Strike Malamar. I don't think it's great, but I could see it. If someone is committed to it and is a good
Ross is
player.
gonna roll up again.
Yeah, if Ross rolls up with it, Ross has
I would love
probably
to
got
see
one of
it.
the best world's track records of anyone. So, expect to see him in top 8 with it. Gengar, I don't
No
think
shot.
he's Azul's just shutting it down completely. Yeah, I
I'll
mean,
shut
probably
Gengar
not,
down.
but yeah, I mean, I think Gengar's probably got a better chance than Whimsicott, Single Strike Urshifu, or Jolteon.
Yeah, which kind of stinks for Single Strike, but it's just not. It's not his time anymore.
And then
Yeah,
now
definitely a shot.
our
Definitely a chance
last
for him.
question. Now our last question from Hey Buddy Bud Aaron, who asks, "Is consistency more important than text?"
I
And
can.
the best answer is it depends.
Yeah. So I can give an answer to basically sum this up if you want me to.
Yeah.
The only thing that matters is once you've picked an archetype that you're going to play for a tournament, the only thing that matters is your win rate with that deck in the expected meta. So if that means adding a let's just say adding an SQ to your Palkia deck increases your win rate in the expected meta, then you add the SQ. If it hurts your win rate, then you don't add it. The expected meta is, well, if you expect a bunch of Gigas and Lunatone Soul Rock, and you expect to hit it 4 out of 6 rounds, then you could use SQ, 4 times out of 6, so the win rate return on the SQ is high, right? So it'll increase your win rate overall in the expected meta, right? That's basically what you want to base. There's no right answer. The answer is you're always trying to have the highest win rate deck in the room compared to everyone else, and that's what you should strive to get. So at some point you have to lock in your archetype. You pick Palkia, and from there you work on refining the list and learning the matchups. And then you have to come up with what you expect the other decks to be in the room, right? What is going to be the meta breakdown, do you think, at the tournament, and then base your techs on that.
And I think that is going to wrap it up for us this week. Thanks to everyone who submitted questions. If you didn't get yours answered, it maybe got answered in last week's episode. So be sure to listen to that. And we got to say best of luck to everyone competing in Worlds. I'm excited to watch. Going to be rooting for you, Azul. Hopefully you could win a couple
Appreciate it.
big tournaments in a row. It'd be pretty wild.
Be nice.
Pretty good for the podcast numbers as well, not going to lie.
I'll do my best, Chip, to hopefully at least asymmetrical my way into top cut at the very least.
Yeah, he's fine finishing 10th as long as it's the same record.
Yeah,
Oh,
we'll take
man.
those. We'll get in there at the very least.
Well, thank you to everyone listening, and thanks for the support as always. If you want to support the cast, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, please leave us a rating on your favorite podcasting platform, Spotify, Apple, whatever it may be. And also be sure to connect with us. Follow us over on Twitter. You can follow the podcast at uncommon_energy, where once again you can potentially send us questions if we ask for them before an episode. And then you can also follow Azul at Azul_GG and myself at Trainer Chip. Thank you all so much for listening.
Yeah, I'll be at Worlds. Chip won't be, unfortunately. I will have some of the uncommon energy dice with me. I only got a couple left, so find me early if you want one.
So it's not worth asking you on Saturday if you have any dice left.
Yeah, probably only going to be worth asking me on Thursday, to be honest. I don't have that many left. And then, yeah, but be sure to come up and say what's up if you want to. For sure. I'm friendly. I don't bite. And I will have a couple dice on me. And yeah, always appreciate the support. And we'll catch y'all next week when we'll be discussing the results of the World Championships. Peace.
Peace.